Hey everybody, I'm Scott Wikle. You're listening to My Kind of Country. Hope you're enjoying the show tonight. My second guest was on Hee Haw for many years. She was one of the Hee Haw Honeys, and she has got a brand new album of unreleased material. This album was discovered again after it had been lost, and it's going to be issued in conjunction with Record Store Day on April 22nd, which is this coming Saturday, and it'll also be released on CD by Omnivore Records. And we're going to talk about that tonight, and she has got a book out and just a lot of other great things we're going to talk about, and of course play some of those great songs from this new album for you tonight. The album is called From Birmingham to Bakersfield, and it's my pleasure to welcome Victoria Hallman to My Kind of Country. Victoria, how are you tonight?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. So nice to have you on the show. Thank you for taking the time.
Well, thank you for asking me, and I'm looking forward to chatting.
Well, me too. Well, this new album that you've got coming out has got a very interesting backstory to it. Tell me a little bit about this project and how it finally came to fruition for you.
Oh, it is very interesting. In fact, it's a miracle, really, that it ever saw the light of day. Back in 1982, actually, it all started in 1981 with the album. One day, Buck Owens, first of all, let me say that I was one of Buck Owens' Buckaroos. I was the female vocalist with the Buckaroos and Buck's opening act. He actually is the one who took me to Hee Haw, but that's another story. So one day, I was working with him, traveling, touring, all that. One day he called me. I lived in Los Angeles. He lived in Bakersfield. That's where his studio was. Everything, Buck Owens, was in Bakersfield, which is 100 miles from L.A. So he called one day and he said, I've just had this song in my head all day, can't get rid of this song. And he said, it's a song that we cut on somebody else one time that didn't really work out, but I think it'll work out really better with you. And in fact, I'd like to cut a whole album on you. So being just kind of really pretty young and not understanding what a big deal it was to have Buck Owens make that kind of offer, I went, okay. So, yeah, all right, if you want to produce me. So we began working on this album. That song actually was a song called You're My Favorite Song. Mm-hmm. And we started with that one and started finding other songs, which back then the album process was a little longer than it is now because we couldn't just zap songs to each other through the internet.
Right.
I had to actually go to Bakersfield to listen to songs that he and Jim Shaw, one of the Buckaroos who was co-producing this with Buck, I'd have to drive there and listen to some songs with them, and we'd choose songs that way. It was a long process. Mm-hmm. So anyway, we cut the album over a course of into 1982, and I think even into 1983. We're cutting songs back and forth. I'd go up, we'd cut, and then they'd bring in other musicians, do the sweetening later, that kind of thing. And I think, we just let it fall through the cracks. We finished the album. We cut 10 songs, and it was mastered, everything. Buck was going through, you could say, a midlife crisis. I call it a mid-career crisis. Really just searching, sad that he, hadn't had a number one hit in a really long time, and that kind of thing. Where does a superstar go from there, sort of? Feeling like Hee Haw was not really his best moment. And I was going through a really, really difficult personal life. I was going through a separation and divorce. So with all that going on in our personal life, we just really dropped the ball on the album. Just never released it, never did anything with all that time we had spent 10 songs. It seems crazy, and I guess in a way it was. But anyway, time went on. I eventually in 1986 moved to Nashville, and my relationship with Buck, we still had a good relationship, but he completely quit touring, opened his huge Crystal Palace, big event venue in Bakersfield, and kind of settled there and stopped going anywhere. He let people come to him at the Crystal Palace. And I cut actually another record with a producer in Nashville. So time went on. I really sort of just kind of forgot about that album. Didn't think much about it. Then in 2006, Buck died. And, of course, all of a sudden, his name was just everywhere. People, even the young people were thinking he was the coolest thing. He had all the cool factor now that he had wanted to have back, when we were cutting the record and he felt he had lost. He had become, one of the faces on the Mount Rushmore of country music. So I called. I thought, that album, we should release it. Now, in 2006, of course, that was much easier a thing than it had been in 1982.
Right.
Because back then, you couldn't just release your own album. Now we had computers, and we had the internet, and people were releasing their own albums just desktop. Even big stars were doing, cutting their own albums at their computer.
Sure.
So I thought, we could just release it, or we could find a label or whatever. So I called Buck Owens Productions. Jim Shaw, who had been the co-producer, now heads that up, still does. And I said, hey, Jim, remember that album that Buck cut on me back in 1982? He said, yeah, I remember. I wrote 4 of the songs on it. And I said, well, don't you think we should see about releasing that now? He said, I think that's a great idea. Let me find the master, and we'll see what, we'll do it. A couple of days later, he called back and said, the strangest thing, but Leanne, meaning Buck's assistant, and I have turned this studio, we've turned the archives upside down, we've searched everywhere, and that master is nowhere to be found. We can't even find a, reel-to-reel on it. We can't find anything on that album. And he said, that is just so unusual. He said, Buck kept everything, but that's not here. And he said, don't you have it? And I said, me? No. No, I don't have the master. So began the search then of even trying to find somebody that I might have handed a cassette to back then of what we had been doing. Calling my friends saying, did I ever give you a cassette? We were just looking for any scrap of that material. Never found it. This went on for quite some time. We, were talking about if we could find a few songs of it, we could put out an EP. Maybe we just didn't know where to look, what to do, and finally completely gave up. And I had to come to terms with, I had something precious, and I let it get lost to the sands of time. It's just gone. So it was gone, not a trace. Then I moved to Birmingham. Meanwhile, time is really moving on. I moved to Birmingham in 2019. One day, and you mentioned my book. I did have a book out in 2018 and became a member of the Authors Guild in New York. And one day I got a message from them saying that this person, unknown person to me, named Joe Ornelas, was trying to get in touch with me, and was it okay if they forwarded his email to me? Well, that seemed harmless. I was okay. So it was from this guy, and he told me that he had found an album of mine at a yard sale in Los Angeles. It had my name on it, and he wondered if I would like to purchase it from him. Well, I thought there was another album I had cut, just a small time deal, really, in Birmingham before I ever moved to Los Angeles. And I thought, it's probably that album, and I would like a copy because I only had one copy of that little album. I thought, yeah, sure. I said, but I did ask, I was like, well, what is it? Because I thought there could be another person with my name in this world. Right. So he said, well, I'll just send you a list of the names of the songs. So he did, and I was sitting in my car reading the email, waiting for my husband to come out of the store. I literally started shrieking. All of a sudden, I was like, this is the long-lost Buck Owens produced album.
Wow.
But it seemed impossible because he said he found an album, and I knew that album was never never released. So, in a way, I went from elation to wondering, wait a minute, this can't be possible, so is this some kind of scam? You know, who's fooling who here? I mean, it just didn't seem possible. Come to find out, it was possible. It was, in fact, something I did not know that Jim Shaw later told me was that everything Buck recorded, he liked to hear on a turntable on vinyl. Well, this was not exactly vinyl. It was an acetate. Mm-hmm. He always had an acetate made of anything he recorded and listened to it first on a turntable. So this was what they call an acetate. I don't know if you know what that is or if our listeners know what that is, but it's a very, it was kind of a demo, an old-style demo. I think they're metal coated with acetate, coated with this very brittle, they're very brittle. They were never meant to be played over 2 or 3 times because they scratch easily. They're just really throwaway records, basically. Not meant to last. So that's what he had. The label had these names of the songs typed on it, and it had Jessie Rose McQueen on it, which was my stage name at the time. So now he's got, he of course said he didn't want it. Once he realized what it was, he didn't charge me for it. He didn't want me. He said, no, this needs to be with you. Now I've got to bite my nails while he ships it from Los Angeles. This is this little very fragile thing. And so he sent it to me. Then COVID struck. So now we've got the songs, but it's hard to do anything with it because obviously it had to be cleaned up seriously. This little thing is not in good shape. Think how many years have gone by with this fragile little acetate out there in the world, in Los Angeles. And what are the odds? He said that he saw it, he picked it up, and he thought, well, I've never heard of this person. Why would I want this? It was $1. And he said he put it down and walked away. And then he said something just told him to buy it. And then something just told him to get in touch with me.
Wow.
But he didn't know how. So he just went on. And, of course, because my book had just come out, the first thing that popped up was me with the Authors Guild. And it just all slotted into place like magic. Then we get to Omnivore recordings. Now, that happened because they are, for anyone who doesn't know, they are just, everything they produce is absolutely art.
Absolutely.
And that's what I wanted for this album because not only was this a legacy for me, it's a legacy for Buck Owens. And I wanted to do him proud. Whatever I did with it, I wanted it to be top-notch, top-drawer art.
Yes.
So I thought, well, what am I going to do with this? God has tossed this into my lap twice now. I think he means me to do something with this album. So I started looking up labels that produce historic albums, archival things. And there were several in Nashville and in Byron, and I knew people associated with those, or at least I would know someone who knew someone, since I had lived many years in Nashville at that point. But I also ran across Omnivore recordings. And as soon as I looked at their website, I thought, this is the one. They do exactly what I want done with this. So I started looking to see how I would get in touch with them. And there really was no way. And in fact, there was a little form thing on the website, and I can't quote it to you, but it pretty much said, remember those old signs you see, do not even think about parking here, yes, this means you? Well, that was pretty much what they said. Do not even think about getting in touch with us. And it did say, if you think you are an exception, you are not. Period. I thought, okay. I thought I was an exception, but I guess I am not. I don't think they want me, even if I do want them. So goodbye. I'll go to national people that I actually know. So I set about talking to various people, and I found one that kind of fit the bill, not exactly, not as wonderful as Omnivore, but I thought, okay, this will do. One night I'm in my bed typing an email to this other label, this person I knew, saying, okay, I've decided I'm going to sign with you. We'll do this. And I guess Buck Owens up there in heaven tapped me on the shoulder and said in my ear, you want Omnivore? And I'm thinking back, yeah, but they don't want me. How do you know? You haven't even tried to get in touch with anybody there. And if you don't try, you'll always wonder what if. Now, this is all in my head, and I'm thinking, that's right. I can at least try. Hey, who knows? So I looked at the offices of the company, and there was this one name that stood out because it was a woman. Her name was Cheryl Pavelski. Hello, Cheryl. And I thought, okay, I maybe. So I went back into what I had found recently, which was for Buck Owens or someone in the office when we were recording. Billboard magazine had run just a blurb saying Buck Owens and Jim Shaw are recording Jessie Rose McQueen at Buck Owens Studios in Bakersfield. I took a screenshot of that, put it at the head of a messenger message, and then said, would you be interested in this never-released, long-lost Buck Owens-produced album? I am Jessie Rose McQueen. I don't know. It wasn't very long, an hour, something like that, until Cheryl Pavelski got back in touch with me and said, yes, indeed, I would. So, there you go.
Wow, that's amazing.
Over the next month, we, hammered out a contract with their lawyer, and I now have a team of like 10 Grammy winning people at Omnivore, and we, produced an amazing album. And there's one more thing. I think the reason maybe that I wound up with Omnivore is that they're in Los Angeles, and as you know, Buck Owens was a California guy. He would have much preferred that this album be produced out of California.
Well, sure. And
so it is.
Omnivore released.
There you go.
Yeah.
There's the story. There's the miracle. 2 miracles. I mean, it's like meant to be, and it's great. And they've just done an amazing job from the liner note. And we also have some Alabama people involved, unintentionally. Randy Poe, who wrote the autobiography, the posthumous autobiography of Buck Owens, wrote the liner notes and is co-producer. And, of course, I'm from Alabama, and Buck Owens' mother was from Alabama. Michael Grace, who did the incredible engineering and mastering to get this little acetate sounding fresh and new as ever. His wife went to Mountain Brook High School here in Birmingham, and the single that we released just recently, Lay Your Heart on Mine, I think you've heard that, was written by a songwriter from Birmingham.
Wow.
So that's one big happy family. What can I say? It's just been an amazing, amazing thing. Everything has just gone perfectly well. I went out to Los Angeles. I actually hand-carried the acetate back to L.A. from whence it come to me. On the airplane, all back and stuff. I carried it on the plane with me like these spy shows where you see the thing handcuffed to the wrist. That's how it was. I felt like a courier. And, I spent time with the Omnivore people and went into the studio with Michael. And, so great. All good. There is a God. Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, Omnivore has really partnered with a lot of the Buck Owens releases. I know that they were stocking a lot of the old albums that they had in storage from years back, and they were selling those. And they've released some fantastic collections on Buck, too. So, it all kind of works together that you ended up with that label because they do a fantastic job.
Yes. Well, interestingly, had I dug deeper into their archives, I would have seen all that.
Yeah.
And all I would have had to do would have been simply to call the office in Bakersfield and say, hey, what about Omnivore? And they would have said, hey, yeah, let's put you in touch. I did not know that. In fact, I now realize, they not only have put out Buck Owens, repackaged and put out Buck Owens things, they have done almost all the artists who were with OMAC, which was an agency that Buck Owens and Jack McFadden, his manager, had. Booking agency and management agency that was before I came along. But they have albums out. Oh, Susan Ray album, Bonnie Owens. They even have one out on the Hager twins from Hee Haw. Just everybody, Don Rich, everybody. The Buckaroos, everybody who was ever associated with Buck Owens. I now know that if this one had slipped by Omnivore, had we not done it on Omnivore, that would have been a hole in their catalog.
Yeah.
Because they have so much of the Bakersfield.
Yeah, I've got a beautiful 3-album set of Buck Owens. It's called Buck Owens Gold that they put out last fall that I just love. And yeah, they do such a great job with their releases. So I'm happy to see that this is coming out. And it's in conjunction with Record Store Day. And for folks that don't know what Record Store Day is, it's been a annual thing been going on for many years. And they put out exclusive releases for this particular day. And there's limited supplies of them. And you have to get them on that day or they're pretty hard to get. And I know that they're putting out vinyl for this new album of yours. In conjunction with that, but there'll also be a CD available. And I know you're doing a signing for this at one of the independent record stores in Birmingham on that day, right?
I'm doing 2 signings that day. I'm going to be everywhere. I'm
Good.
doing one in Nashville and one in Birmingham.
Wow. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
It's going to be a busy day.
I consider those my album launch. And one is at the Great Escape in Nashville at noon. The other is at Seasick Records in Birmingham at 4:30. So, yes, I can be 2 places at once. It's my superpower. But, yes, it is. I want everybody to understand it is a very limited edition. I think it is 1,400 of these. Well, the Record Store Day vinyls are special because they have a special sticker on them, which is a work of art itself. And so record collectors, that's important to record collectors. There will be 1,400 of these released worldwide, which sounds like a lot, but it's not, for this special Record Store Day edition. And in fact, I know that Seasick Records here in Birmingham is only allowing 1 per customer. So they are pretty stingy with these. I just want everybody to be forewarned that if you really want one of these Record Store Day editions of this album, better go to your local record store, the RSD store in your area, and get it because there probably will not be any available after. Another really, really good thing. And it's a beautiful vinyl. The liner notes, the artwork, everything is just really beautiful with it. So,
oh, that's great.
Hope I get a copy.
Yeah, make sure you get one.
Hey, I'm serious. I've got people saying, hey, can we order one? I'm like, I don't think so.
No, you got to get them that day. Yeah, go get to your record store on this Saturday, the 22nd, and you'll have a chance to get one. And you can go to omnivorerecordings.com also, and you'll have a CD that's available through them too, right?
Well, the CD, and of course streaming and MP3 and all that will be available on the 28th of April. But it's those are available for pre-order already.
Okay.
You can go to Omnivore. They're available everywhere.
Okay.
How do I tell people where to go get them? They're literally anywhere anybody buys music. These are available right now for pre-order. Whether it's Omnivore website or Amazon or Target or any other music provider, you can get them there.
Perfect. We'll put that information on our Facebook page too for My Kind of Country, folks, and you can get a copy of that from Birmingham to Bakersfield. And there's a few bonus songs on there too. I wanted to ask you about those, Victoria. I know you did a Mama Tried, the Merle Haggard song, and Buck Owens, Under the Influence of Love. Where did those bonus tracks come from?
I produced those.
Oh wow!
I'm proud to say. Yeah, and that's another little miracle in a way. In 1980, I just decided, of course, this predates the other songs on the album by really about a year, because about a year. I just decided that I was living in Los Angeles, and I just decided that I wanted to go into the studio and cut some things. Yeah. So I did, and I rounded up some amazing musicians and went in and just chose some songs. One was an original by Daryl Clanton. He was a songwriter, a Nashville songwriter. In fact, he has 2 songs on the album because I chose one for my session that I produced, and Buck and Jim and I chose one of his for the session Buck produced. So, yay, Daryl. So, went in and cut these 3 songs as a demo, and just, it was kind of fun, and just did it. Then, just like with the album, they just kind of, I still had those, like some wheel-to-wheels, but I never did anything with those. So, interestingly, I was in the studio in L.A. At Osiris Studio. Michael Graves, the guy who mastered my new album, it's his studio, and Cheryl and Michael and I were physically in the studio one day, and he was playing a demo for her of Johnny Mercer, I think it was, singing Moon River. Just this great little demo of the songwriter singing his own song. And she shook her head. She said, wow, I sure love demos. So I told her, I said, I've got a demo that has a pretty spectacular lineup of musicians on it, and I'm just wondering if you'd be interested. And she said, who are the musicians? And I said, well, they're Hal Blaine and James Burton and J.D. Mannix and Emery Gordy Jr. and actually Nicky Raphael. And she got back to me and she said, that's not a spectacular lineup of musicians. Those are the musicians. Yeah. And she said, send them to me. So I couldn't send them to her right then because they're on Reel to Reel, and I was in L.A. So when I got back home, I sent them, and she really liked them. So they ended up, because the time period was, the same, that she thought that those would fit as bonus tracks and loved them. And, actually I produced them, so they're kind of my favorites on the whole album. And it didn't occur to me at the time that I had chosen a Buck Owens song on purpose because I was working with Buck, of course. But then I happened to choose the Merle Haggard song. So there we've got Bakersfield again.
Yep.
It kind of just all fit perfectly. This is just sounding, you can't make this stuff up. It's like a movie. It's just too good to be true. Michael Graves worked his magic on that old piece of tape, and there we go. So we got the 3 that I produced. Yay.
That's great. Now, those are going to be on the vinyl, too, right? In addition
those are on
to
the vinyl, absolutely.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
13, so there's 13 songs on this album. What a deal.
Well, fantastic. Well, folks, get over to your local record store this Saturday for Record Store Day and pick up a copy of Victoria Hallman's new album, From Birmingham to Bakersfield. And we're going to play some of those songs for you tonight. We're going to play one of the demos, and we're going to play You're My Favorite Song and the single, Lay Your Heart on Mine. Beautiful song. And Victoria, I want to thank you so much for sharing that just absolutely phenomenal story about this album today. And thank you for taking time to be on My Kind of Country.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
All right, that's Victoria Hallman. Here's some great music from the new album as we continue.
When I woke up this morning, it hit me with no warning. Round and round inside me, playing tell by the look on your face. You left your troubles on your pillowcase last night when you needed someone. Now that I've got you near, stay beside me 'cause I want to hear all the things you've been hurting to say. It hurts to see you hurt again, 'cause we've always been the best of friends. Heart to heart, we go back a long time. So let your feelings all unwind. Don't be afraid of what you might find. Oh baby, don't you think it's time? Together tonight.